struggling. I don't mean in general, with the fact that it has a corrupt government, is a basically a failed state, and a wannabe dictatorship that is uh, close to getting there. They're struggling with that as well, but they're also struggling with the issue of the Palestinians. They didn't expect this when their immediate response to the massacre, the biggest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust, was to accuse the Jews of genocide. They didn't expect that the people they're claiming are the victims of genocide would suddenly show up on their doorstep trying to escape the genocide. That is completely unacceptable to South Africa. They have enough problems. They don't need Palestinians. That's not how they put it, but it kind of, if you read between the lines, I think that's kind of what they mean. Welcome to the reality show. I'm Razi Ginsburg. I'm joined by Daniel Kraus, Michael Kaufman, and Jonathan Honig. Jonathan, I will go to you first. What do you think about South Africa, one of the leaders in the world of the onslaught on Israel diplomatically, so to speak, not wanting the victims of the genocide, not wanting to help them save themselves from the alleged genocide?
Well, yeah, I mean, Razi, it is a little peculiar that, like a lot of the Arab countries in the Middle East, South Africa, for years now has denounced Israel as committing genocide, as the Palestinians, as just these poor, innocent victims of mean old Israel. But when the Palestinians then want to come emigrate to these countries, they don't seem that eager to let them in. And from my perspective, if you know anything about them, the values they hold, you wouldn't be too eager to let them in either. But it's Israel that is the subject of their ire. Interestingly, they're not so interested in actually welcoming the supposed victims of Israel's non-existent genocide.
Yeah, Michael, the values they hold is the big question there, and the values the South African government holds. And by the way, every time we talk about South Africa on this show, which is or on the Daily Objective, which is quite frequently over the past couple of years, we're flooded in the comments by people saying it's not South Africa, it's the ANC. Look, I love the fact that there are so many good people in South Africa. The fact is, your government is your government, whether or not you voted for it, whether or not you like it. That's who is setting
It
policy.
represents you.
Yeah, that's who represents your country. And their values are clear. They made it clear after October 7th by saying we support, we see the victims as those who tried to kill all the Jews and only managed to kill 1,200 and kidnap 251. But as I guess as part of their values, they need the Palestinians to stay there in Gaza. No?
Well, everybody needs the Palestinians to stay there and suffer and then commit periodic atrocities against Israel and just continue this ridiculous facade of righteousness and return and all this crap. It goes. I mean, this started a long time ago. We have pretty much every actor in the region, and of course South Africa is a lot further from the region. So why they're exactly, what stake they play in this game, other than to just bash Israel and pretend like they really care, is obvious to everyone who has a brain, which is that they want to distract from their current problems and they want to just pretend to be supporting the little guy, the poor, unhappy people. Most Palestinians are Jordanian descent. Jordan has taken essentially no. I'm sure it wasn't zero, but it's close to zero Palestinians in since this all began. Egypt, which is, of course, responsible for the vast majority of weapons that have been smuggled from outside of Gaza into Gaza, all the material to make the tunnels, et cetera, et cetera. Egypt hasn't taken anybody either. All of the people that are so concerned about the poor Palestinians have done absolutely nothing in reality to help them. The other thing you're seeing that's happening is people are pulling out right and left from being in this international stabilization force because guess what? Hamas is not going to go gently into that good night. And nobody wants to put their people at risk to protect the poor Palestinians. The last thing I'll say is that, ironically, Israel has employed more Palestinians than any other country in the world. And yet the country that gets blamed for all this is Israel. And of course, Israel doesn't do a very good PR job on the other side, which is why we can talk about it today. But South Africa is a despicable, corrupt country with its government, nothing good to say about it. And I'm not at all surprised by this behavior.
And the UN, Michael, you probably agree, and places like the UN becomes their stage for all their proclamations and all their decrees on, how terrible Israel is and how over the too much and meanwhile they're corrupt to the core.
Oh yeah, don't forget. I thank you for mentioning it, Jonathan. The UNRWA. Let's all not forget about UNRWA, which is now mostly defunded, although it's still hanging on by a thread, as far as I can tell from reading the news. UNRWA is the UN spokesperson for this fiasco. I mean, it is the largest refugee organization in the world, and it is overseeing the expansion of the number of Palestinians from several 100,000 to 2 million. That's called genocide, when you increase your number of people. And it has absolutely been multiple times has been complicit in not only harboring terrorists and so on, but teaching terrorism to young Gazans, teaching hatred of Israel and Jews, and supporting all kinds of heinous acts. And this
is in UNRWA tunnels.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of our most dedicated trolls in the chat says, where is this? Israeli PR isn't doing good, says the PR as part of the PR. Look, we'd love to be Israeli PR. I mean, we don't take government money here at ARCUK, but we'll do it for free. Bibi, call me even on the Sabbath. I answer the phone. Yeah, if Israel actually said the things that are said on this channel and then followed through, first of all, there would be peace now, and
Right.
and yeah, the world would be a much better place. Something else that would bring peace is the Razi peace plan, which I'm sure you've all heard here, but I have to say, Michael, when you mentioned Jordan and Egypt, even though it temporarily would be better if the people of Gaza and Judea and Samaria went to those countries, that is not compatible with the Razi peace plan, because they can invade from those countries, and they will invade from those countries, if not tomorrow, then in a couple of years, because the tunnels might be longer and take more time to build. Uh, but South Africa also is an ideal. I'll take South Africa, but my ideal place is Libya, a weak dictatorship that you can force to take Palestinians. Tell them we're carving out a place there. It's too far for them to invade, and it's close enough that Israel can bomb it whenever needed. So the peace plan means Palestinians have to go, and they have to go to a place like Libya. And one other,
just one thing, Razi, with this idea of accepting, Palestinians. If the Palestinian people are anything like the government that they elected, who in their right mind would accept them? I mean, who would accept barbarians who traffic in bloodlust, hatred of the West, hatred of Jews, third world barbaric violence? Like, why would you want that around you? And why would you endorse that? I mean, it's only, I think this is my understanding of objectivism, it's only altruism. It's a hatred of the good Israel for being the good, and it's embrace of the truly wicked. I don't know, for no other reason than self-sacrifice, as I would understand.
Yeah, nobody would and nobody does want them, which is why we need to find a weak dictatorship. You don't violate the right of the dictator when you tell him this is it for this plot of land. Libya is all, a bunch of it is desert. So yeah, it's perfect. Something else, Michael, you mentioned Palestinians working in Israel. Yeah, let's stop with that, because we've already seen what
we clearly need to stop. I mean,
yeah.
Israel does a lot of things that are self-defeating, and it always expects, and I hear it from people all the time, we'd always expect to be blessed for it from the outside world. And there's still Israelis that I speak with every now and then who actually are surprised that the world doesn't love Israel. They're just shocked, like, we do all these good things. Why don't they like us? And these people are living in la la land. I mean, they're completely in a bubble, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And cheap labor is available elsewhere. Bring people from India, bring people from Thailand, yeah, not having Palestinians help build buildings and then map out where the Jews are for next time they're going to kill us is yeah, it's even if it's a bit pricier, it's worth that money.
Well,
Um,
and if
yeah,
I may say, what the Palestinians don't have, at least from my perspective, is the minds of men like Michael, who build companies, create cures for diseases, transform hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people's lives for the better. Like, where in in Palestinian society and Palestinian culture do we see that? Do we see people coming up with life-saving innovations that benefit, yes, the Palestinians, but all of mankind? I mean, you see that in Western culture every single day. We see innovations that are blown up that, benefit us all. Does that ever seem to come out of Palestinian culture? Have we ever seen that?
yeah. I mean, Jonathan, I know you don't give investment advice on the show, but are you saying don't buy Palestinian biotech stocks? Is that your recommendation at the moment? All right. Speaking of hating Jews, Daniel has been sitting here silently for too long. So Daniel, I'm gonna go to you.
I like that you insinuated that I have been hating Jews here, like
No,
talking about
that
hating.
if we don't let you talk, that might be the result. That was the joke, but they don't always land.
Well, I think it's funnier if I like explain it. Well, when it comes to, well, first, because Michael mentioned the Palestinians employed by Israeli companies, and there are like actual cases of it. In 2014, there was the Soda Stream, the soda syrup company that had like a factory in Mishor Adumim, close to Jerusalem, but technically in the illegal settlements. And because of the sanctions, it was forced to relocate, which meant 500 Palestinians have lost their job because of these sanctions. So yeah, absolutely, a lot of these sanctions hurt Palestinians, but of course, nobody cares. It's not about that. Jonathan mentioned the Palestinian minds, and the fact is, Palestinians are the most educated Arab group in the region. The problem is, both societally and culturally, one, nobody encourages them to use that education to actually produce something, to actually make something happen. And two, of course, their own government. The society doesn't allow for it. You won't be rewarded for doing a great company. The infrastructure is not even there, because any infrastructure inside of Gaza, gets pulled apart so they can build rockets out of it. That is what the Palestinian culture encourages right now. Now, sort of going into South Africa, I mean, yeah, the like, again, try to say like what would happen if there wasn't like an actual genocide in Gaza. One, I don't remember there being like a door you could leave out of Auschwitz, where if anybody wants to leave, here is a door, you can just get out and nothing will happen to you, as Israel allows for many Palestinians. And then if you are a nation that actually cares about the genocide, where you would go, yeah, they are being exterminated, but let's not send way too many of them. Let's not send a lot of them. Let's just keep the numbers low. Let's just have them stay there in south of Gaza, which we say is like an extermination camp. So, but also South Africans, they do not have a problem with genocide. They do not have a problem with the Palestinian genocide against the Jews. After October 7th, like a week after, I don't think it was who's the guy, Razi, you sent me, is that the president, or I don't know what yeah. So the president of South Africa, week after October 7, has been saying we have to stand in solidarity with Palestinians. We have to, we need a ceasefire, blah, blah, blah. We have a video we can play later if we want. So, 1 week after October 7, when the only thing in the news is what happened to the Jews, he's already, standing in solidarity with Palestinians. So they do stand for it. They do stand for genocide. It's just genocide against the Jews. That's what they care for, and that's what they stand for. So again, if you say you're in solidarity with Palestinians, what kind of values are you in solidarity for? But what actually represents the Palestinian culture, which is violence, dictatorship, Islam. That's what you have. You cannot, you know, there is no like platonic Palestinian who's like pro-Western, pro-democracy, against killing Jews. That like such a thing doesn't exist, and these people don't even support that.
Um, Soul Vibe Meditations says Israel needs to cut off all aid or all support to Palestinians ASAP, even like food and water, nothing for Palestinians if they kill others. Yeah, this should have been done before, long before October 7th. It shouldn't have happened in the first place. And the fact that it didn't happen immediately after October 7th, except for like a couple of days until the international community demanded that Israel feed its killers, then the war would have been over even if Israel hadn't responded militarily at some point with no food and no electricity, it would have been over one way or another. And it's the Palestinians' choice how which way that war would end. But yeah, no, unfortunately, Israel has been fighting itself over the past 2 years more than it has been fighting the Palestinians, and that's the only war it's been winning against itself. And unfortunately. Yeah, that's look, and this is what I said in the previous episode that we did about this story is this is not, this is nowhere near the Razi peace plan, having some private company, some charity that nobody can find who's behind it, sending Palestinians, 150 people at a time to South Africa, but it's better than nothing. It means that 150 people fewer are in Gaza, and if that's how it's done, then that's how it's done. It's better than nothing. Hopefully, it can be stepped up. They can go anywhere, as far as I'm concerned. Preferably not London, at least not until I can get out of here. But yeah, yeah, as long as they're not there, waiting for the moment when they can kill Jews, that's an improvement, Jonathan.
Can I just say, I mean, this idea of a peace plan, I mean, big picture, Miss Rand talks about how it's ideas that move the world. And like, can there ever be peace as long as the Palestinian people hold these ideas, no matter where they are? I mean, it just seems like, long term, it's like it's such a barbaric, theocratic way of looking and existing in the world that, it's why the so-called ceasefire, it seems like such a not even just an admission of loss on Israel's part, but a guarantee that you're going to see the Islamists' theocracy continue to foment, continue to fester, continue to make war against Israel and the West. As we talked about it, it's like every 11 and 12-year-old little Palestinian boy now sees that what's moral is standing up against big, mean Israel. And you're rewarded by it. You're a hero to the community. You're that much closer to Allah or your virgins or whatnot. So, ideas move the world, and I just think Israel and Gaza are the best example. I mean, prosperous, modern, life affirming Israel, as Miss Rand identified 30 years ago, and that backward, theocratic, Islamist rest of the Middle East, which hasn't changed in decades and never will as long as they continue to hold those ideas.
So, Michael, this was done as mentioned, kind of, on the down low. It wasn't advertised. It wasn't, and now they've sort of been caught, and I wonder if it's gonna continue. What do you think of just generally, not having an official policy where Trump and Netanyahu are sitting in the White House and saying they're all going to go to Indonesia, and actually doing it without announcing it?
Now, look, and you all know, I'm generally a Trump supporter overall, mostly because the alternative is really, I think, unthinkable. I mean, if you imagine Harris in the White House right now, Israel would probably be bootstrapped for weapons, and still be fighting and still accepting casualties, and it would be a total disaster. And there would be all kinds of sanctions being slapped on Israel, and U.S. would stop sending weapons and so on. And I mean, so let's all not pretend there is a third alternative here besides Trump. But Donald Trump has essentially lost interest in this situation, I believe. He put together this plan. He got the hostages back, which is phenomenal. But what he's done is effectively hamstring Israel now to moving forward with finishing the job, because they've withdrawn. They have 50% of the property and in Gaza, and they're sitting there waiting for the next attack. They had 5 new terrorists come out. The 200 terrorists that are, quote, caught in another terror tunnel that they didn't demolish came out today and got blown away, which was great. But there's no plan here. This whole 20-point plan, and Ayn Rand talks about this too. When there's an agreement between good people and evil people always win, because good people are sitting there abiding by these fake laws, whether they believe in them or not. I mean, Israel is held up to this ridiculous sense of international law, which is always available to be thrown out whenever it's useful, and thrown out in both a good way, and also when you're the poor Palestinians, you don't have to abide by international law. So it's just a festering mess. The good news is that there's a much bigger buffer zone now between where Gaza ends and Israeli buffer begins. The bad news is there's a lot of young Israeli soldiers who are all there. It's a required draft in Israel, who are stuck there now guarding this stupidity. And all they do is have themselves and drones and everything watching this border, this new border. And every time somebody comes out, they blow them away. And then they have to explain and document 15 ways to Tuesday, like it's a criminal investigation, why they blew away people that are not supposed to be crossing into the zone anyway.
Okay, I wanted to read this earlier, but Frank asks, why is the Mossad not in New York City helping Jews? Frank, as you know, when the Mossad does something, it is not announced. There's no press release saying we're coming to New York City. So, you know, I wouldn't say don't worry, because you should absolutely worry for New York City, not just for the Jews, although probably more for the Jews than others. But yeah, there will be people trying to defend New York City and its people. I have no doubt about that. Yeah, Trump, Michael, while I agree with you about Israel, when it comes to Trump, I'm increasingly terrified by the guy, but he is sometimes entertaining. Let's see him being asked about this plane. Oh, do we not have that clip?
We do, but I actually wanted to say something, and it will actually prove in the clip upcoming. So I just wanted to add there. A bad quality I have as a commentator is whenever I can make a joke that would derail a conversation, I always go for that joke, even if it derails a conversation. And something to know about Trump is he has the same quality. He would make a joke during like a press conference or something, even though it's completely besides the point, even though it's completely outside. And that sort of reminds me that I don't think Trump like wants to be a president. He wants to be like, if we are talking about, like, he wants to be like the king, but like the king of England, like representative function where he's like a nominal head of state but doesn't actually do anything. Because like when it comes to, I feel like he's always bored about like actually doing like the executive parts of like the government, or even like helping the Congress like draft legislation, making like a policy, making like a reform. He just doesn't seem to be that much into it. So it's like unfortunate that we don't have somebody who like wants to do something proper. But do you want to go to the clip?
Yes.
And then I want to ask you, because you brought up the plight of the Palestinians, are you aware of relocation flights to South Africa that are taking place right now?
Which flights?
There are relocation flights that are taking place. Some Palestinians are being charged up to $2,000
I'm not going
a
to
seat.
South Africa for the G20 because I think their policies on the extermination of people are unacceptable. So I'm not going. So I won't refer to anything having to do with South Africa. South Africa has behaved extremely badly.
Love that. Are you aware of the flights sending Palestinians to South Africa? I'm not going to the G20. Love that. Okay. All right. Jonathan, actually, Daniel, before I go to Jonathan, can you bring up this picture? Because I want to play devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, look, we answer the claims that, Palestinians are suffering and so on with, well, why did they start a war? But look at this picture. I mean, they're flying economy, isn't that some type of a war crime all the way to South Africa with a stop in the middle? I mean, it's not even a direct flight. Isn't this some type of genocide?
Yeah, I mean, another example, Razi. But I mean, what's just so frustrating is that I actually heard some of the statistics on Dr. Brooks' podcast earlier in the week of how support for Hamas seems to be growing. That whereas a year and a half ago, 30 some odd percent of the population supported Hamas and the government's actions vis-a-vis the attack on Israel. Now upwards of 50%, according to some polls, supported. So when people draw these big broad lines between, oh, no, it's Hamas that's bad, not the Palestinian people. I just go back to, who does Hamas represent? Who supports Hamas? Who elected them and who keeps them in power? Those same Palestinian people that claim Israel are the ones committing genocide against a war that they themselves started.
There's an interesting comment here in the chat, Michael. It says, as far as most of us South African people feel, both countries are barbarians. First of all, I love how somebody expresses their view and doesn't express it as their own view, but as most of us South Africans. And it's great to see people from a country like South Africa calling others barbarians. Seriously, look at your own country and take a close, hard look. And yeah, maybe actually look closer at conflicts and who the sides are before expressing a view. It's good to have views, but it's good to have views about things, so if you know the thing first, then you have a view about it. And that view, by the way, shows not just your knowledge of the thing, but more importantly, your values. Michael.
Well, this notion of sort of moderate people that are balanced, that are just happen to be Islamists, and I won't even call them militant Islamists, but obviously Islamist itself says you're pretty staunch. This was started after 9/11, when everyone was worried about Islamophobia. After 9/11, so a bunch of crazy militant Islamists attack America and end up with America killing many people, which we should have killed many more as a response, but we did our usual Vietnam-like and Korea-like job of not getting the job done. And everyone worried about people hating people that believed in Islam, but nobody really cared that there were none of these moderate Islam, none of these moderate Muslims were screaming about what a horrendous thing 9/11 was. And to this day, I'm not aware of any significant so-called moderate Muslim movement anywhere that talks about getting along with the West, recognizing Western values. If you want to be Muslim, fine, but let Christians be Christians, let Jews be Jews, and let everybody else be what they want to be. That's not, I don't hear that. So I don't know about these people in South Africa. They elected their government. They deserve exactly what they get. Their quality of life, I'm sure, has gone down. And if it hasn't, fine for them. But their opinions, frankly, don't matter. Just like the Labour Party's opinions of Israel in the UK don't matter. They shouldn't matter. But the point is that this notion of modern Muslims is a Western-created liberal bullshit that we love to talk about that doesn't exist in real life. It's certainly not written about. You don't see any imams that I'm aware of that are screaming that Islam has to figure out a way to get along with the rest of the world, or there's going to be a lot of dead people on both sides. Quite the contrary. And the idea that the people of Gaza are smart enough to wake up one day and realize that their misery has been caused by the very people who are holding guns to their heads and controlling their food and their water supply is just ludicrous. It's the same crap that we've told ourselves that there's going to be a revolution in Iran. Iran has no water in Tehran. They're going to move the capital. Do you see revolts going on in Iran? No. Why? Because as soon as anyone pops their head up, And God forbid you're a woman who doesn't put her scarf on properly, they blow you away or jail you, torture you, and then blow you away. I don't understand why the West doesn't get it. How difficult is this concept? We shouldn't be surprised. The people of Gaza are not going to be self-determining people. The people of Japan after World War II, most of whom believed in the emperor and the importance of the emperor and the fact that he was a descendant of a deity or whatever, a representative. They didn't just wake up one day and say, okay, we're done with that. The guy screwed us over. We ended up with many, many dead people, 2 atomic bombs because we misbehaved. They didn't renounce themselves. It took a generation or two. And this is laughable. This kind of, we're all surprised all the time that people that voted for it, despicable, despotic, theocratic, nutty government that has no interest in their own lives, no longer support them. It's crazy. It's our belief. It's us sitting here with our frickin' educations believing that these morons who elected the people in the first place are going to suddenly turn around and want to go move from being a terrorist to an accountant.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, quality of life going downhill in South Africa, and of course the ANC keeps winning elections like they always win. So yeah, you absolutely get what you deserve. And in the UK, we're also getting what we deserve. And we talked about this with all the recognitions, all the different countries recognizing a Palestinian state. How many of them, their current leaders are either the most unpopular in the history of their country, have corruption charges about, against everybody around them, like the Spanish prime minister. It's it's the Jews are very convenient, a very convenient target to deflect from your own problems. It's yeah, it is what it is. A few days ago, I accidentally caught this news story on I think it was ITV, saying that Sky Bet, the apparently biggest betting company in the UK, decided to move its headquarters to Malta. And I really enjoy stuff like that, even though Malta is not exactly a good country, but it has much lower corporation tax, and labor is going to discover something that nobody has ever discovered before. They raise taxes and they're like, okay, we raise taxes, now we get all this, we get more revenue. And all of a sudden, after raising taxes, they're going to discover they have less revenue, and they'll be like, "How? We looked at the numbers." But yeah, this is this is what Britain is getting. Here's a couple more comments from this person, the self-appointed spokesperson of South Africans, who says, "Yeah, as far as most, did I already read this? Yes." No, did I read as far as most of us South African people feel both countries are barbarians? I did read it. Okay. We don't need either of these people in our country. I would, I would say if you had some of Israel's finest, South Africa would be better off. But why would Israel's finest go to South Africa? And then the person says, we are not killing thousands a week in South Africa. Unfortunately, Israel didn't kill thousands a week in Gaza either. Otherwise, this war would have been over much sooner. And yeah, no, just random. I'm sure any random farmer getting murdered for his skin color in South Africa, their family is super happy that the numbers are lower than in some conflict zones. Daniel.
Rosie, sorry to interrupt, but I want to respond to that comment that we're killing thousands a week. Let's agree that we just disagree on what a just war is. Okay, this person whose opinion is absurd and actually suicidal believes that when someone points a gun at you and tells you that he wants to erase you from the map, which is exactly what Gaza's leaders have said over and over again. It's what the Ayatollah says. It's what all of the militant Islamic people say all the time about not only Israel, but also about America. And guess what, South Africa? You're part of it. You're part of the Israel-America axis in this case. You're an evil. You're just not that important. So let's be clear about your definition of what a just war is. When somebody points a gun at me and my family, I want my tax dollars to go to annihilating them, everybody around them, and everybody who supports them. That's what America did in World War II, which is why the free world even exists today. Not because we were kind and nice and discussed humanitarian aid to Germany and Japan, not to mention Italy and Spain. So this is the fundamental problem. We have a philosophical disagreement. Gaza should have been wiped out until Hamas surrendered, period. That's what should have happened. Israel should not have lost 700 of its youngest people, its soldiers, fighting these animals who have created nothing and will create nothing in the world. We need to stop walking around this. If you want to believe that we want to do an eye for an eye and that's it, then we have a different agreement. When someone tells you they want to annihilate you, I believe we annihilate them first. End of story.
And Rand, of course, talks about this as, what is the role of government? Is, keeping you safe, protecting your rights from government, but from outside invaders, most certainly. And, you can't go get a plane. You can't get an M16 you need government to be that force. And they've completely dropped the ball thus far.
Daniel.
Yeah, well, first, Bonnie earlier in the chat asked, and I've seen a few people like wondering about it, like because the flights into South Africa by Palestinians, they costed like upwards of $2,000, and like how do they have the money for it? And if you live in like a really terrible place, you do whatever is necessary to get $2,000. I mean, we don't know these individual Palestinians. There is a little bit of it's hard to say if there are any like innocent Palestinians left in Gaza, but to some extent, anybody who's willing to like leave, especially with their children that are innocent, like willing to like get out of the country that is dangerous, that's good, and that's respectable to some extent. And a lot of Palestinians have families outside of Gaza, so they might borrow money, they might get it through some other means, so that's not that surprising. When it comes to earlier, we mentioned about sort of the way Netanyahu is going about it, and yeah, well, there's like two things, right? The one is like, of course, the scheming Jews are trying to get rid of all Palestinians in Gaza. That's like the narrative right now, which is my favorite thing. 150 Palestinians every 2 weeks. In 500 years, all Palestinians will be gone out of Gaza. It's only half a millennium until we can do it. But yeah, is it like an official or sort of like official, unofficial thing that Israel lets it? Because I'm not sure we mentioned it, but South Africa is claiming that the Palestinians didn't have like the proper documentation to like get out of Gaza. And the idea is that Israel like laxed, some of the requirements just to get them out. Which again, I think Netanyahu should like go and openly say, yeah, we're letting Palestinians out. Like, why? Like, don't you want them to like get out of the war zone? But of course, that's ethnic cleansing. Letting Palestinians leave a war zone is, of course, ethnic cleansing. So yeah, there's like that, which again is ridiculous. Netanyahu, if he had any like moral spine, any like idea of like what Israel stands for and what it needs to survive, he would have no problem with doing so. And then on the other hand, right, if Trump agreed with it, it's like, okay, who else do you have to like care for an opinion about doing something? If America and Israel want to do something, they do not have to do it secretly. They can just do it. Trump has already done so much other stuff with like not caring about what anybody else thinks. So I don't see why this should be any different.
Daniel, when you came up with the 500 years number, are you assuming the population stays exactly the same? Like, is this labor math or like?
It was like 2 million was the number I was working with. And basically that it wouldn't like grow, so it would like constantly go out. So technically, I don't think you would ever actually get rid of them, because probably
when you have 20 kids like in every family, then population grows. The thing about if Netanyahu had a moral spine, that's the thing. The most principled leaders in the world, principled in terms of acting on their principles, are the ones with the most horrible principles. They are following through, whereas the West, the best in the West are the ones who are less apologetic than others. There's nobody really saying, freedom is right, and that is what we're going to do, and we're going to defend it against anybody who tries to take it away from us and who tries to kill us. Michael, do you want to comment on that, or should we go to the president of South Africa?
Well, I think it is worth commenting again that there is clarity available here, and it's not that difficult. And obviously, this whole bullshit about the bureaucratic Tel Aviv stamp, you just acted like Tel Aviv, which you can first of all you condemn Israel, and then you pretend that Tel Aviv is somehow an arbiter of these poor Palestinians. This is exactly the government you would not want to listen to. So it's obviously this is built to let stupid, ignorant, or uninformed people, have a story that you can spin. And then the way it all works is this happened. They didn't know what to do. After it's done, they call in the spin doctors. They sit around at a table. They come up with, 5 ideas, and they pick the one that they think will sell the most. This is obviously a bunch of crap. As far as Western leaders, it's just not that hard. You don't have to be, you don't have to go from Chamberlain to Churchill to understand that you could stand up for things. You don't have to decide it's time to drop an atomic bomb on Japan when you've warned them, and when your American kids are getting blown to pieces every day, and you're stronger. You have strength, use it. But that's not what happens in the West. It's not what Israel's doing, and frankly, the US doesn't do it.
Itzmin says, starting to suspect Michael might be a medicine man. That is some solid detective work. Yeah, the representative of the people of South Africa says, we don't want those Palestinian people here. No, you want them in Israel or Gaza murdering Israelis. That's Israel doesn't want them there either, at least the rational ones in Israel. But yeah, let's hear from somebody who is actually the representative of the people of South Africa because they voted for him, Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yesterday we had a plane of 160, we're carrying 160 Palestinians landing at OR Tambo. And these are people from Gaza who somehow mysteriously were put on a plane that passed by Nairobi and came here. And I said, we cannot turn them back. Even though they do not have the necessary documents and papers, these are people from a strife-torn, a war-torn country. And out of compassion, out of empathy, we must receive them.
So yeah, Michael, you're an actual doctor, but there's also a profession called spin doctor, and this guy has one, at least. And yeah, it's interesting to see how he is both showing what a great man of empathy he is, and saying we're not going to let anybody else in. Yeah, it's look, he somehow keeps getting elected, so yeah, there's something in there, at least something that South Africans appreciate.
Yeah, it's really laughable that someone could look in the mirror. I mean, I don't know how much of this crap he believes. I suppose there are people that voted for him that believe it, that you made a dent into this problem by bringing 150. Let's assume they even had anything to do with it, which who knows what really happened. It's just hard to imagine a plane having a flight plan and getting from A to B in this day and age, especially out of a war zone with nobody tracking it. I mean, obviously the Israelis were tracking this flight, and the U.S. tracks everything. We've got satellites everywhere. I mean, the whole thing, if you think about it for 30 seconds, it's obviously ridiculous. It's like a plane showed up on our runway. A little plane, we miss them all the time. And the 150 people that they quote saved, and who knows what's going to actually happen to these people. Probably they'll get pushed on to some other places or whatever. The whole thing is just it's a little bit like, it reminded me of the blockade, flotilla that Greta loved to sponsor. It's all a bunch of world stage baloney that has somehow supplanted what it deserves is about 10 seconds in the news and saying, oh, we have another stupid regime making up crap again, like we do in Hollywood movies about these sorts of things.
Um, yeah, so Daniel, this charity, I was thinking, okay, let me look into this because maybe we can encourage people to donate to this charity. But I'm not sure I'm ready to go there because it really isn't clear, and I appreciate that it isn't clear who they are and what exactly they do. But yeah, it's I think you have a video of Anna Kasparian's emotional response to this situation, right?
Yep.
Yes, we're gonna surveil everybody. Everyone will be on their best behavior. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, the Young Turks need help with promoting their work. Go follow them at the Young Turks YouTube channel. Daniel, thoughts?
Well, first, yeah, we should start using it because it's crazy she did that. Like Anna Kasparian actually did like the anti-Semitic trope, like of the happy merchant. Like it's crazy somebody would actually do that. And she was specifically talking about somebody Jewish. But that's besides the point. But yeah, that's the way these people think about like anything Jewish related. Like
Yeah, and I
even
have to say, like in looking at potential topics this week, one of them was Anna Kasparian again talking to Tucker Carlson. They're now BFFs, and yeah, the Young Turks, I think, really, like the part of the right, the growing part of the right that is openly anti-Semitic, more than they like the left that uses, weasel words like anti-Zionist and so on. They seem to be more comfortable, more at least increasingly comfortable with the anti-Semitic right.
they did 9/11 truthism, so yeah, they did have like a whole episode on that. But yeah, even the way the South African president talks about it, right? Sort of like mysteriously put on a plane. It's like it was a charter plane, so it wasn't like like a normal connection. But even then, don't they like check with with like the airport, like when somebody's flying in, or like
Of
the air
course we
traffic?
do. You have to have a flight plan from start before you take off. You have to have a flight plan on the departing airport and the arriving airport, and you have to have approximately your flight plan between the two.
Not to mention, there's so many people just for fun, tracking flights on flight
Yeah,
radar and stuff. Yeah,
for sure. But
this.
certainly flights going out like that, of all places. I mean, really, it begs all credibility. The head of the ANC is obviously an absolute puppet. I mean, he's a joke. Yeah, they elected him. Okay, he's going to do a lot of damage. People's lives are not going to be as good, but he doesn't play on the world stage. And it's much more fun for him to do this theater than it is to actually get to the hard work of improving the country.
Daniel.
Yeah, and again, something we should mention because usually when we do South Africa episodes, we start getting people saying like, this is ANC, this is not all South Africans. But something to realize after last election, because I think Razi, you mentioned it, ANC didn't win the last election. ANC didn't get the majority in the last election. The Democratic Alliance, the opposition, long-time opposition to ANC, is the government right now. So it's like, it is kind of all South Africans. You are kind of going with it. Although, obviously, probably the reality when ANC goes with DA is better than going with the Marxists on the left side and like doing that kind of government. That's why it was probably chosen. But yeah, it's it is large parts of South African society that are going with this. So and yeah, again, it's always like trying to run away. Even the way he says like we compassionately are going to accept Palestinians, but don't say that any more of them. It's like, okay, we're like compassionately accept these ones, but 300 is way too much because there was one another flight before this. It's it's funny how maybe funny is not the right word, but when the Syrian civil war started, I think what was in total like 4 million Syrian refugees in total, 4.5 million Syrian refugees in total. 2 million of them went into various European nations. I think Turkey took about 2 million of them or so, or like over 1 million. So that was somehow well, it wasn't dealt with. It was a big problem. There was like a huge crisis across all of EU, but somehow it was handled. But for some reason, 2 million Palestinians or so, with many surrounding countries, with a much easier way to get out, right? Israel is controlling people going outside of Gaza. So there is an issue there, unlike it was with Syrian civil war, where you had like people fighting on every side. Somehow we cannot accommodate Palestinians, even though much more people seem to be supportive of Palestinians than of the Syrians in the past. But somehow we just cannot accommodate them at all, because of course we don't care about the individual Palestinians. There is this collective Palestinianism that we have to keep alive, which is fighting Israel. So Palestinians need to sacrifice and stay in Gaza for the benefit of the collective Palestinian.
Yeah, Bonnie, Jonathan is fine. He did tell us that he's going to leave early. I didn't mention it. Sorry about that. Yeah, a couple days ago, a video popped up on some social media from decades ago of a British local councilman standing next to a road where there have been many accidents, and he's talking about, yeah, it's a very safe road and so on. And then there's accidents behind him, like a bunch of them, like while he's saying this. And yeah, that's kind of, it's not exactly the same, but Susie mentions, that plane would have been blown out of the sky if it wasn't known who was on it, where it came from, and where it was going to. Yeah, planes cannot just fly without being tracked. I think, it was when Assad left Syria, it was reported that his plane was had its radar off and stuff. And that's, by the way, that's also pretty dangerous, because part of what this being detectable helps with is you don't crash into another plane. But yeah, anyway, they can. Ramaphosa has sold South Africans so many bills of goods that they eagerly bought, that I guess he thinks he can get away with anything. Michael, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
I think one thing that as the world gets kookier and kookier and frankly dumber and dumber, I guess, but I don't think it's really dumber and dumber. I think it's always been fairly. People have not investigated things. People have not tried to think about things beyond and try to put two and two together and see if it really makes four, or you're being fed a bunch of crap by various people. I think we have got to stop answering the proverbial "when did you stop beating your wife" question, which has no good answer, because obviously either answer is you still beating her, or you used to beat her and you just stopped. And that's not a question that you should ever answer. You should say, I don't agree with the presupposition or the foundation of the question. This is what has happened a lot, I think, in the Israeli-Palestinian war. And we should stop calling it a conflict. It is a war. The Palestinians have made it clear they want to annihilate Israel. We should be very clear when we speak about this, and we should be black and white about it. The leadership of Hamas has said that we will continue October 7th over and over again. There was a recent report saying the same thing. So until we start to bring back words that actually have meaning and stop arguing when people build principles, you can build a very nice dictatorship, and if you go halfway into the story, it all looks great. It's when you go back and look at the foundations that you realize it's all rotten, and you end up with the gulag, which is what happened under Stalin. So until we do that, we're all going to pay the price for this, and it's going to be a disaster. Israel's paying the price because we have leadership that is basically on again, off again. There's no leadership currently with the Gaza situation. This part two is a joke, and we have a bunch of bad actors out in the rest of the world who have nothing better to do except impugn the Jews and Israel. My name is Michael Kaufman. I am KAU with 2 Fs, and I'm best found on LinkedIn. Thank you.
And yeah, as you say, and as we mention often, ideas matter, values matter. Recognizing that Western values are better than the values of savages is important. We've talked before about how, the correct answer in Palestinian culture to the question, when did you stop beating your wife, is how dare you accuse me of stopping beating my wife? Yes, Daniel, don't be offended. That's not, I think that's factually correct, because it's, that is a culture that absolutely sees women as second class citizens.
I
We
think their
know.
laws allow it. I think they're very happy to tell you that their laws actually do not prohibit the beating of wives.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Daniel, parting thoughts, and where can people find you?
Well, trying to force Palestinians to beat their wives is, you're imposing your culture on them, which is actually a funny joke that I've seen in some political game where there is like a cultural minority and somebody wants to come and, deal with like domestic violence, and somebody comes in and say, hey, we shouldn't like police their own culture. We shouldn't like go after these things, which I found pretty funny. When it comes to South Africa specifically, I mean, when they say they stand in solidarity with Palestinians, they sure do. And that's not a good thing. Palestinian values are not the ones you should be in solidarity with. Again, you cannot choose what you actually support in specific culture. Culture is sort of like a broad thing, and when you support it, you support all of it together, not just parts you pick out. And again, the good parts about Palestinian culture aren't there. There is no pro-Western, there is no secular, there is no value building aspect of a Palestinian culture. It is a culture that is Islamic, Islamist even, that is anti-Jewish, that is like racist to everybody, not just Jewish people, and wants the destruction of Western civilization. That is just part of it. And if you say you're in solidarity with that, you're no like friend. You're no friend of the West, and South Africa definitely isn't.
And where can people find you?
My YouTube channel, Damned Dan.
Itzman says maybe their women are especially nagging. Who knows? Yeah, it's not domestic violence, it's resistance. And Rupert says it is only the corrupt ANC government, not the people of South Africa. By the way, there are many Jews in South Africa. Yes, there are many Jews there. Yes, there are many non-Jews who oppose it. But no, it's not just the government is elected, and it's not just the ANC. And so yeah, it is a real problem. By the way, in preparation for today and the show we did a couple of days ago, I watched some stuff from South African media. They seem, at least the ones that I've seen, seem pretty clear on where they stand, and it is not with Israel. So, but yeah, we do appreciate that there are many good people in South Africa, and we hope you win next time around. There are also many white supremacists on Twitter, as I've discovered last night. One of them turns out to be this British Nick Fuentes. I had a little back and forth with him yesterday, which and even more interesting was the amount of response I got from replies I got from his fans, and the type of replies. Yeah. Good enough to do an episode on it, which is what James Valiant and I will talk about tomorrow on the Daily Objective. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow on the Daily Objective.
Have a good night. Thanks.